Today I'm going to be sharing 4 new sewing makes for my spring-summer wardrobe. I'm going to talk through each pattern, the sewing level, share how I found the sewing process, and also include a little of how I'm planning to style each make with what I already own. Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing really well. I'm looking forward to sharing with you today everything that I've been sewing and making for my spring-summer wardrobe recently. So let's get straight into it, shall we? So starting with this new stripe sweater, I absolutely love a good stripy Breton style top for the spring and summertime. I find there's nothing easier to wear. I just feel as though they pair well with everything, well, everything in my wardrobe anyway. I love to wear jeans and they pair so nicely with jeans and a nice jacket, but they also go really well with wide leg trousers and skirts and shorts, pretty much everything really. So I find them really easy to wear and very versatile for me. And I always feel kind of put together when I'm wearing one as well. I think it's something to do with that sort of French chic style that Breton style tops seem to evoke in my mind anyway. So this top was actually inspired by a really lovely top that I'd seen on the Suzanne website. I absolutely love the relaxed style of this top and I really liked the colours that they'd used in their particular version. But because it was such an easy sort of boxy relaxed style, I thought it would be easy enough to try and recreate something similar. So unfortunately I couldn't find any fabric that was similar to the colourway that the Suzanne style top had used. I just couldn't find anything in that sort of beige ecru kind of colour. So in the end I had to settle for this off-white and navy stripe, which I do actually really like. I just thought the beige and navy was that little bit different, but that's just what Suzanne does so well really, isn't it? Just introduces colours and textures and tones and things that are just that little bit special. But yes, nonetheless, I really do love the fabric that I've chosen. This is a French terry fabric and it's from Self-Made. It's a little bit different to any other French terry that I've used before, and I'm not sure if the texture will actually pick up on the camera, but it's a little bit sort of bumpy. So it's not your normal French terry, I would say. It's got a nice little bit of texture to it, which I actually really like. So just going off the Suzanne style top and its sort of very boxy, oversized nature, it was really easy for me to pick a pattern to use to recreate this kind of style. So I immediately picked up my most favourite and probably most used sweater pattern, which is the Jara sweatshirt by Megan Nielsen. The Jara pattern is a really great beginner friendly pattern. I recommend it all the time, particularly if you are a beginner that's looking to start out sewing with knit and jersey fabrics. I think this is a great one to start with. And if you are more experienced, then the Jara pattern is a 2-hour sew. In fact, I actually challenged myself to sew this top in 2 hours and I have a reel of myself making this top in 2 hours over on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts, and I'll link that down below just in case you fancy a little watch. So the Jara pattern does come with various different sweater style options, but the version that I mostly opt for is version A, which is your sort of bog standard sweatshirt pattern. It has a crew neckline, sleeve cuffs, a hemband, and it's a nice relaxed sort of boxy oversized drop shoulder sweater. So because I wanted to create something similar to the Suzanne style top, how many times can I say Suzanne in this video? It's quite a mouthful to say actually, but because I was going for something a little bit more sort of relaxed and boxy without any of the cuffs and hembands and things like that, I just made a few tweaks and changes to the pattern to give me a similar look. So to do that, all I did was literally leave off the hemband and lengthen the body of the sweater slightly. So I added on a few extra inches and enough in the extra length to turn up a quite a big sort of weighty hem of just over an inch, I think I took in the end. I really like to take a big heavy hem if I'm going to be making a boxy top, because I feel like that just makes the whole top hang better, and you kind of avoid that sort of curling up that you can get with jersey sometimes as well. So yeah, I do like a big weighty hem on a boxy garment. And then for the sleeves, I left off the sleeve cuffs as well. And because I'd done that, I just lengthened the sleeve slightly to give me a little bit of extra length. Obviously, where I was removing the sleeve cuff, I'd also removed some of the length in the arm, so I added on some extra length and also some width in the sleeve as well, just to make sure that because I was sort of lengthening down the sleeve, I wasn't getting narrower and narrower as I was coming into the cuff area, giving me a really tight, sort of thin, skinny sleeve at the wrist. I didn't want that, so I just added a little bit of extra width to the sleeve as well. And then for the neckband, I didn't use the sort of self fabric from the rest of the garment. I had this ribbing in my stash already, and luckily for me it's actually a pretty good match to this white. If you've ever tried to match whites for ribbing and sweatshirt fabric, you'll know what a nightmare it can be. There's so many different shades of whites around. You wouldn't think it, but actually there are just so many different shades of whites, and it can be a nightmare to match your neckband to the body of your sweatshirt sometimes. So I was really pleased that I had this in my stash ready to go, and it's not a perfect match, but it's near enough. You know, you can't, it doesn't stand out too much, especially not from a distance, so I'm really pleased with that. And that was obviously the only little bit of ribbing that I needed for this whole sweatshirt, and I am super pleased with this actually. It's just a really easy throw on top for springtime. As I say, I wear these kind of tops all the time so this will get very well worn in my wardrobe, and I like that it's just a little bit different to some of the other stripy tops that I own. I tend to go for a more fitted Breton style top. When I've made in the past, I've used the Cocoa top by Tilly and the Buttons, which is a bit more of a fitted style. So I really like the fact that this is more oversized and boxy, gives kind of sweatshirt look, but it's also a long sleeve top, I guess, because it doesn't have those bands on the sleeves and the hemband. And I love the fact that I can just reuse a pattern that I've used so many times, countless times, to make the sweatshirt as it is, but also to hack and make as other versions of different things, tops, t-shirts, sweaters like this. It's just a really versatile pattern, and just tweaking and changing a couple of things within the original pattern design just gives you a completely different look and feel and a new garment for my spring wardrobe, which I'm really, really pleased with. So moving on to my second make now, and that is another grain line Archer button-up shirt, which I sewed from this lovely cotton chambray fabric, which I picked up from the Stitch Festival back in March. This chambray is lovely and soft. I'm very particular with my cottons and my chambrays and anything that could potentially be a little bit stiff and a little bit uncomfortable to wear. So it was really nice to be able to sort of feel the fabric at the Stitch Festival and just make sure that I was picking up something that I know will feel comfortable on me. So this is kind of a practical make really. I've wanted to make or replace a denim shirt that I've had in my wardrobe for ages and ages and worn to death really. I find denim shirts and all shirts really versatile for my wardrobe. I wear them under things, I wear them underneath knits and things in the autumn winter time, but then in the spring summertime I'll either wear them on their own buttoned up tucked into jeans or trousers, or I'll wear them open over Agnes tops or vests or camis, and I just find them so easy to just throw on. So if you want an extra bit of warmth in the spring summertime, or if you want to cover up from the sun, then yeah, you can just throw on a shirt and be done. So I find the Grain Line Archer shirt a great pattern for just a standard sort of tailored looking shirt. I would say this one is probably more on the intermediate level of sewing. It does include a few sort of tailoring techniques which can be more fiddly and more difficult perhaps if you are more of a beginner. But having said that, I really love grain line patterns. I find their instructions really clear and easy to follow, and their patterns are always really well drafted as well, so they come together really nicely and really easily. So there are two different versions of the Archer that you can sew. You can sew this sort of traditional style tailored looking bog standard shirt or you can sew the version with this sort of frilly back panel in the back. I'm not sure that version is quite my style, but I really love the sort of standard shirt that you can sew from this pattern. It includes all of your traditional shirt features like a button placket, a collar on a stand, you've got your sleeve plackets and cuffs, and then the back has a yoke with a pleated back panel as well. And then if I just show you the inside, so that's what the inside looks like. You get this really lovely lined back yoke, which is finished with the burrito method, and then you can decorate parts of the shirt if you want to with top stitching as well, which I've just done on the shoulders and then the back of the yoke. And then you've just got these lovely sleeve plackets and cuffs, and the sleeves are just finished with some binding inside, and then you've got the pleating detail at the back of the cuff and this nice slanted detail on the cuff there as well, which I think looks really nice. I actually do have a full sew along video over on my Patreon for the grain line archer, so if it's something that you're a little bit intimidated to sew, perhaps that video might be helpful to you, and I'll just link it down below if you want to pop over and check that out. So yeah, this was a thoroughly enjoyable sew. Because I've sewn this pattern before, I sort of knew what I was doing, but I do find shirts quite an involved sew, so I'm always having to think about what I'm doing and just make sure that I'm doing everything accurately and neatly, and I really enjoy that kind of sewing at the moment. I do love sewing a shirt. It's probably one of my most favourite things to sew actually, so I really enjoyed sort of taking my time over this. I did it over a few evenings, so I wasn't rushing in any way, and it came together, as I always find with that kind of sewing, when you kind of break it up and do it over lots of different days, it came together pretty quickly really, just doing an hour or half an hour here and there. And I always find that when I am sewing that way, I take my time more and I just make sure that I'm getting everything right. So yeah, thoroughly pleased with this one, and I know that this is going to be well worn in my own wardrobe too. So on to my third make, which is another denim make. I do love denim, as you know, and I think denim is supposed to be quite big for this spring summertime actually, particularly double denim. I'm not quite sure if I'm there with the double denim, but I do think that denim, as always, is set to be pretty big still this spring summertime. So hopefully I'm on trend. Anyway, this is another pair of Protea Pants by Paradise Patterns. I always knew that I wanted to make another pair of Protea Pants by Paradise Patterns. I absolutely loved my first version, as you'll know if you are a regular here. They are just the perfect sort of tailored wide leg trousers for me, and I just love the fit and all of the details on them really. I wear wide leg trousers all the time. I'm a big jeans and trousers wearer. It's what I mostly reach for, I would say, over probably skirts and dresses. And so I wanted to sew another pair, particularly with spring wear in mind. So I did actually make and film and sew these for my Patreon video last month. So there is a full sew along for these trousers over on Patreon, and if you are interested, again, I will link that down below. I promise this video isn't only set to promote my Patreon. It just so happens that two of the makes I do have videos for over there, so I will link those down below. So I had originally wanted to sew these from a stone coloured linen viscose fabric, which I thought would work really well for summertime, but unfortunately that fabric didn't arrive in time for me to be able to film and get my video up on time. So I needed to do a panic fabric buy from our local John Lewis, and they had this really lovely, they called it a light denim, but I think it's more of a chambray actually, and it's in this really lovely dark indigo. And I have to say that now that I've made these, I'm almost kind of glad that that happened, because I feel like this denim version is going to be really useful and really versatile in my wardrobe for springtime, because denim just always pairs well with everything really, doesn't it? So I can wear this with so much of what I already own, and because I love jeans so much, I feel like I'm going to feel, you know, like myself in these. They're just going to be a smarter version, I think, of a pair of jeans for me, and I'm sure that the stone coloured version will get sewn at some point. So the Protea Pants pattern, if you've not seen it, it's a really lovely pattern for a pair of wide leg tailored trousers. It includes all of your sort of traditional standard tailored trouser components. It has a zip fly, a waistband, pockets, belt loops, back pleats, and you can sew two different versions. So you can sew a flat fronted wide leg trouser, or you can sew the version with a big box pleat at the front, which is the version I've sewn for my two versions of this pattern. I do love a big wide leg, so I really wanted to go for the widest leg that I possibly could with these, because I just love a good pair of plazo pants. So in terms of experience for this pattern, I would say you definitely need to have a bit of sewing experience before attempting these, just because similar to my grey line archer shirt, there are a few tailoring techniques involved in this pattern which you might find a little bit difficult if you haven't got a lot of sewing experience. But again, I do always say that there's no harm ever in giving something a go, and most often I feel as though that's the way that we learn. So whereas I would rate this pattern on the more intermediate to advanced level, I think, you know, if you are a confident beginner and you fancy challenging yourself, I'm not going to stop you. There is also a little bit of fitting to do with these, I will say, because they are tailored and they're very fitted around the waist and the bottom area. You do need to really pay attention to the body measurements and also the fitted garment measurements as well. I did need to do a little bit of grading when I first made these trousers, and I explain all of that in my video for the sew along for these trousers over on Patreon. But once I'd sort of got that grading done and I got my size sorted, these, I have to say, fit me perfectly. And I'm so pleased with the fit of these. They feel comfortable, so they don't feel tight in any way, but they feel really fitted, so they feel secure around my waist. There's enough room in there to be able to tuck something in, but they also don't feel too tight either. So for me, this is like the perfect comfortable fit. I hate anything feeling too tight around my waist particularly, so I'm always a little bit wary whenever I do have to fit and size everything. I don't want things to feel too tight, and these luckily don't. So similar, I'm trying to hold these like this so you can see the whole of the big leg, but similar to my grey line archer shirt, I just thoroughly enjoyed sewing these. Again, it's the kind of make that you cannot rush really because of the detail and the fiddliness of some parts of the sewing. You really do need to slow down and take your time, and as I say, I'm just really enjoying that kind of sewing at the moment, trying to sew carefully and do my best work. So I'm really looking forward to wearing these this spring and summertime. What I love about these kind of trousers is that they are so versatile for me. So I will wear trousers like this with trainers when it's colder. These will take me probably into the autumn winter time because I will just wear them with trainers and Ugg boots and things. Or for spring summertime, I'll wear them with my sandals and a strappy top, and I just love that kind of outfit. It's very me, so I know that I'll get lots of wear out of these, and they're just a smarter sort of alternative to the vast amounts of elasticated waist wide leg trousers that I already have in my wardrobe. So I really like being able to sort of have that option of a smarter pair of wide leg trousers and then the more casual elasticated waist versions for daytime and when you're feeling as though you need that bit of extra comfort and easy fitting. And lastly, I just have a really simple, easy t-shirt to share with you, but with a little bit of a twist. So the pattern I've used for this top is the Agnes top by Tilly and the Buttons. The Agnes is my go-to t-shirt pattern for a fitted top. So I will most often wear Agnes t-shirts underneath things, and I love to wear them underneath things like my denim shirt, for example, other loose, floaty, boxy shirts that I have in my wardrobe, like my Logan jackets. And I will also wear more fitted tops and t-shirts like this underneath my hand knits and my ready-to-wear cardigans and jackets and things too. Sometimes I will wear a fitted Agnes top in the summertime, but if I ever do, I will always try to sort of balance it out by wearing something more voluminous on the bottom, I guess. So like a wide leg pair of trousers, for example, or a floaty skirt. And I feel like that just gives me a little bit more balance overall in my outfit rather than wearing a very fitted top with some skinny or fitted bottoms. That just wouldn't work for me. So that's how I like to wear my Agnes t-shirts. The sewing level I would say for this one is very much beginner, confident beginner. So if you've sewn a little bit of jersey before, or even if you haven't actually, I would say that this one is a really good one to try. I would say it's probably slightly more difficult than the Jara pattern, which I mentioned earlier in the video, just because it has a slightly more fiddly neckband to insert. So if you're sewing this pattern, you likely will be sewing with a more stretchy jersey, which just makes things a little bit more difficult because you then have to stretch in this neckband slightly. But having said that, this neckline is a very scoop neckline and I've always found this neckband to fit in really easily. Because this is a fitted top, you're essentially sort of stretching out the neckband as you're wearing it, which helps it to lay really nice and flat. Well, that's what I found in the past. I've never had difficulty getting this neckband in. So that's why I would say it is a good one for beginners to try. You just have to be a little bit more sort of careful than you do perhaps with the Jarrah pattern, just because you're sewing with two different jerseys. If you're making a sweatshirt, your jersey isn't so stretchy, it has more structure to it, and therefore it's easy to sew. But if you're sewing a fitted top, then you're sewing it with something a little bit more stretchy with more recovery, and therefore it's just slightly more difficult to sew. But I would say if you are a beginner who wants to get used to sewing with knits, this is a really good pattern to try, because Tilly and the Buttons patterns are always great. They're always really well written, really well drafted, and they are great for beginners. They're designed with beginners in mind, so yeah, it's a good one to try if you are wanting to start out with knits. So I've sewn this Agnes t-shirt from this beautiful chocolate brown shade of pointelle jersey fabric, which I brought from the fabric seller. This is a shade that I could not find anywhere else, and I love brown. I love brown and beige. Lots of my Agnes t-shirts that I already have in my wardrobe are sewn from neutrals, so creams and whites, because I tend to pair them under things that have more colour. So it was really nice to find this chocolate brown shade that for me will just go with loads of other things in my wardrobe. And I also at the moment am just loving pointelle jersey. It's my favourite kind of jersey to work with and to wear, and it really gives me vintage vibes as well. I know that this top will work really hard for me over this spring summertime. I have loads that I can already pair it with in my wardrobe, loads of wide leg trousers, lots of skirts and things that are going to go really nicely with this. And I actually have the perfect beige and white cotton fabric I have ready to sew up a pair of wide leg trousers from, and I feel as though those trousers are going to pair so well with this top, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I will get around to making those very soon. So something I'm really enjoying doing lately is to finish my Agnes tops and my jersey tops with this pretty scalloped edging all around the neckline and also on the sleeves as well. So this is actually surprisingly easy to do, and if you have a scallop stitch on your sewing machine, it might be there and you may never have noticed it before because I know for me I have so many stitches on my sewing machine that I don't really investigate as much as I should. So have a look on your sewing machine, see if you've got a scallop stitch, and if you have, then this kind of edging is really easy to create. I actually have an Instagram reel and a YouTube short just detailing exactly how I do this on my machine, and I hope that will be helpful. I will link that down below. But essentially, if you do have that stitch on your machine, you just need to change a few settings on your sewing machine. For me, I have to change the foot and the tension and the stitch, and then you just run that stitch all along the edge of your neckband fold and also on the fold of your sleeve hem as well, and the sewing machine will just pretty much do the job for you. And for me, I just think it gives such a lovely sort of elevated finish. It's just so pretty, isn't it? And it adds a little bit of detail to an otherwise quite plain top. Something else I always love to do with all of my jersey makes pretty much, including the Jarrah sweatshirt that I showed you earlier in the video, is to finish all of the neckband, the sleeve hems and the bottom hem with a twin needle finish. I love a twin needle finish, and I feel like it just gives a little bit more of a professional finish than just a zigzag run along the neckline. If you're scared of using a twin needle, do not panic. It is not as difficult as you think it might be. I know I was really scared of trying out that finish when I first started sewing with jersey. I do have a tutorial video, which I will link down below, of how I do my twin needling on my machine. I think it's pretty much the same as most machines. The process is kind of the same on whatever machine you're using, so I will link that video down below as well, just in case that's helpful. And I have to say, I look at makes like this and I feel so pleased and so proud, because in the earlier days of my sewing I never would have thought that I could get this kind of finish on a jersey garment that I had made. I love making things like this just as much as I love sewing my shirts and my trousers, and I love just sort of getting the best finish that I can, enjoying the whole process of taking that bit of extra time to do your twin needling, to maybe try out a different finish like the scalloped edging. It just elevates your handmade garments and it just takes them up a notch, I think, and that again is just what I'm really enjoying doing in my sewing at the moment. I feel as though I'm sewing less, but I'm trying to sew better. So everything that I'm making, I'm trying to make it the best that it can be. So yeah, I was just having a little moment really when I was looking at the finish of this and just feeling so pleased with it. You know, it's a basic bog standard jersey top, but I just feel just so pleased with it. So just a few things that I've been sewing and making recently. I have lots of spring summer plans to get on with actually, so I hope I will have another makes video coming up for you in the not too distant future, so do stay tuned for that. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. I would love you to give the video a like. It just really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and all that kind of stuff. And if you do watch my videos regularly and you're not subscribed, can I please ask you to just click that subscribe button, and if you don't want to miss out on future videos, you can also click the notification bell so that you are notified whenever I post a new sewing video. If you want to, you can also follow me over on Instagram, and I do have my Patreon as well for extra sewing videos and content, and I will link everything down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy sewing, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.